What if a Dunkleosteus suddenly appeared in the modern ocean? Could it reclaim its throne at the top of the ecological niche? Right now, in the depths of the Mariana Trench, a Dunkleosteus is quietly born. At birth, its body length is only 35 centimeters, weighing 5 kilograms, putting it at the very bottom of the food chain in the modern ocean. But 600 million years ago in the ancient oceans, this size would already make it a powerhouse in the same waters. Right now, the first crisis this little Dunkleosteus faces is not other predators, but shivering from the cold. The ancient memories etched into its genes tell it that the ocean is supposed to be warm. The basin-like surface waters stayed around 28 degrees Celsius year-round, allowing an ectotherm like it to maintain peak physical performance at all times. But now, the ocean water around it is only 18 degrees Celsius, a full 10 degrees lower. More fatally, it is hungry. Driven by ancient instinct, it hides in the shadow of a coral reef to ambush passing prey. Soon, a school of glowing sardines enters its field of vision. In its genetic memory, this is the perfect prey. 600 million years ago, its ancestors faced slow-moving placoderms that relied solely on hard shells for defense, whose maximum swimming speed wouldn't exceed 1 meter per second. It only needed to lunge forward to complete the hunt in a single bite. The little Dunkleosteus builds up its strength, gives a powerful sweep of its tail, and its heavy front body launches forward like a cannonball. Yet, the exact moment it opens its jaws, the school of sardines ahead scatters like a gust of wind. Sardines can swim at speeds exceeding 5 meters per second, with a turning radius only a fifth of its own. Even if the little Dunkleosteus sprints with all its might, it cannot catch up to this nimble school of sardines. Furthermore, this explosive sprint of the Dunkleosteus can only be sustained for 3 seconds. Once those 3 seconds are up, its speed plummets off a cliff, leaving it to watch helplessly as its prey vanishes into the darkness. This is the first time it realizes that the ocean of this era is completely different from the world in its genes. It spends an entire day getting battered and bruised, failing 9 out of 10 hunting attempts, and ultimately catching only a single crab hiding in a reef crevice. It opens its jaws, snapping them shut within 0.02 seconds. The crab dies without ever knowing that this pair of bony blades is the evolutionary pinnacle of the placoderm family over hundreds of millions of years. Even for a juvenile Dunkleosteus right now, its bite force can reach 500 newtons. Over the next 6 months, by scavenging carrion and ambushing benthic organisms, it manages to grow to a length of 1 meter, with its weight surpassing 20 kilograms. Yet, it still lives on the brink of starvation at any moment. The low temperature makes its digestive efficiency extremely low. Even if it swallows a whole piece of seafood, it takes a full 3 days to completely digest it. On this day, it encounters predators of the modern era for the first time. 3 black-tip reef sharks, each 1.5 meters long. In its ancient memories, sharks had always been its prey. The reason is simple. The earliest sharks had already appeared during the Devonian period. Back then, sharks were only a meter long, with no hard bones and no sharp teeth, making them completely defenseless against its bony blades. So, when the 3 reef sharks start circling it, its first instinct is not to flee, but to attack. It turns sharply and charges at the foremost reef shark, prepared to crush the opponent's head in one bite. But it never expected that this shark would be entirely different from those of the Devonian period. The reef shark's body lacks heavy armor plating, and its streamlined torso allows it to effortlessly make a sharp turn, evading its fatal strike. Meanwhile, the other 2 reef sharks have already circled behind it. A surge of sharp pain shoots from its tail stalk. The reef shark's razor-sharp teeth sink heavily into its flesh. This is the first life-or-death lesson of its existence. In the oceans of 360 million years ago, Every showdown was a contest of whose shell was harder and whose bite force was stronger. Never before had any prey used flanking tactics to wear it down. He realized that continuing like this meant certain death. So he slowed down, tilting his body to one side, pretending to be injured and exhausted, letting his body sink toward the reef. Sure enough, a reef shark fell for it. The moment the reef shark entered his attack range, all of his accumulated strength erupted instantly. His wide-open jaws precisely locked onto the reef shark's head. With 500 kilograms of bite force, he instantly crushed the reef shark's skull. Half of its head was sliced off in an instant by his bony blades. The remaining 2 reef sharks were terrified by the sight before them. They had never seen a creature that could bite a shark in half with a single mouthful. After hesitating for a few seconds, they turned around and fled into the deep sea. He won, relying on his apex predator instinct from his ancient genes. He won this life-and-death showdown. For these 3 years he survived. Yet he still could not escape the core conflict between his ancient genes and the modern environment. The Devonian period was known as the Age of Fish. In the oceans at that time, 80% of the creatures were bottom-dwelling placoderms, such as ostracoderms. They moved sluggishly, relying on heavy, hard shells for defense, lacking agile swimming capabilities. They were the perfect prey for Dunkleosteus. But in the modern oceans, bony fish occupy over 90% of the ecological niches. All prey has evolved streamlined bodies and flexible fins. Their top swimming speed can reach 20 meters per second, which is twice the full sprint speed of Dunkleosteus. He was like an ancient general holding a melee weapon who had dropped into a modern battlefield, toyed with by all kinds of modern equipment. Another 3 years passed, and he grew to 5 meters long, weighing 2 tons. A Dunkleosteus of this size would already be at the top of the food chain in the Devonian period. He believed he was big enough until one day he encountered a blue whale in the deep sea. An adult blue whale can reach 30 meters in length and weigh 100 tons. At that moment, Dunkleosteus' mind went completely blank. All the memories in his genes were screaming frantically, yet he could find no record whatsoever of such a creature. Instinctively, he assumed an offensive posture, his jaws slightly open, revealing his cold, sharp, bony blades. But facing the blue whale before him, he could not even find an angle to attack. Even his maximum bite force could only leave a shallow mark on the blue whale's smooth skin. Meanwhile, even if the blue whale just gently flicked its tail fin, the impact force of the resulting current would be enough to leave him completely dazed, and could even shatter his armor plates. Fortunately, the blue whale bore him no ill will and turned around to leave. In 10 years' time, he finally reached full maturity, a body length of 6, 5 meters and a weight of 3, 5 tons. This is the standard adult size for Dunkleosteus terrelli. By this time, the thickest part of his armor plates reached 5 centimeters, capable of deflecting attacks from any predator. The bony blades of his upper and lower jaws could reach a peak bite force of 60,000 newtons, which is 3 times the bite force of a great white shark. He finally stood at the top of the ecological niche in this marine area, completely altering the behavioral patterns of marine life across the Western Pacific. The pods of great white sharks that originally dominated here changed their hunting routes. The migrating schools of tuna bypassed the ocean trench area where he resided. 60 million years ago, his ancestors ruled the Devonian oceans. 60 million years later, in the modern oceans, he still lived as a presence that no creature dared to provoke. He thought he had finally conquered time and conquered this unfamiliar environment. But he would soon encounter the most powerful enemy in the oceans of this era. Each one was over 8 meters long and weighed 6 tons, absolute apex predators of the modern ocean. They trespassed into his territory. Originally, they were there to hunt passing pods of seals, but they quickly discovered this never-before-seen, giant creature covered entirely in armor plates. The high intelligence of the killer whales allowed them to instantly judge that this was a fellow apex predator of the same caliber and a massive threat to their territory that had to be eliminated. Dunkleosteus' genetic instinct immediately entered battle mode. Yet, he did not expect that the killer whales had absolutely no intention of confronting him head-on. The 5 killer whales instantly split into 2 groups, swimming back and forth right in front of him, creating water currents to disrupt his vision. Meanwhile, the other 3 female whales had already slipped silently behind him. He turned around violently, attempting to crush the killer whales behind him. But the killer whales swam at speeds exceeding 15 meters per second, and their turning radius was only 1/10 of his, allowing them to easily dodge his attacks. He lunged again and again, snapping his jaws repeatedly, but each time he missed completely. In less than 10 minutes, he was already exhausted, his breathing becoming incredibly rapid. Yet the killer whales maintained a clear division of labor. The killer whales in front continued to ram and pin him down, giving him no opportunity to counterattack. The killer whales behind bit relentlessly at his weak spots, tearing and gnawing continuously. Every single bite tore away a chunk of flesh and blood. A few minutes later, Dunkleosteus' body completely stopped struggling. The killer whales released their grip, circled his massive carcass a few times, and only left after confirming he was thoroughly dead. The ancient ocean ruler that once dominated 360 million years ago, faced with the killer whale, a top predator of the modern ocean, ultimately could not escape the fate of destruction. Heavy armor plates were no match for flexible tactics. A powerful bite force could not catch up with agile movements. In the end, he became food for the killer whales, perishing into this unfamiliar ocean. You might think the maximum size of a crocodile is only 7 meters. Wrong. 80 million years ago, there was a crocodile that could grow up to 12 meters long and weigh up to 8 tons. It didn't eat zebras and antelopes, but specifically hunted dinosaurs. You heard that right, dinosaurs. Creatures like ankylosaurs and hadrosaurs were all their targets. Some studies have even found that they would also attack passing tyrannosaurids. Now you might ask, could it actually bite through these armored behemoths? My answer is yes, and quite easily at that. According to the latest research, Dunkleosteus' maximum bite force could reach 100,000 newtons. What does that mean? It's equivalent to a 1-ton compact car running directly over you. How was this terrifying giant crocodile discovered by humans? The story begins back in the 1850s. At the time, paleontologists in North Carolina, USA, unearthed a few fossilized large teeth. Initially, all scientists believed these were the teeth of a pliosaur. Nobody suspected a crocodile. But as a large amount of skeletal remains were subsequently unearthed, everyone was proven wrong. This fellow actually turned out to be a crocodile. So that begs the question, how could a crocodile grow so large? The answer is actually quite simple. 82 million years ago, Earth's environment looked completely different than it does today. At that time, the American continent was split in half by a shallow sea, known as the Western Interior Seaway. The region was filled with rivers and swamps, and most importantly, this inland sea connected to the open ocean. This kind of environment was paradise for Dunkleosteus. There was no shortage of food, and the temperature was just right. And so, it grew larger and larger, becoming the largest crocodile in history. So exactly how big was it? To date, the scientific community has confirmed 4 species of Dunkleosteus: Dunkleosteus schwimmeri, Dunkleosteus riogradensis, Dunkleosteus rugosus, and Dunkleosteus hatcheri. Every single one was a certifiable giant crocodile. Based on precise estimates by paleontologists, the average body length of an adult Dunkleosteus ranged between 8 to 10 meters, with its weight fluctuating between 2,500 to 5,000 kilograms. Its size was well over twice that of a male hippopotamus. Certain exceptionally large individuals pushed past these limits. For instance, with Deinosuchus ryagrandensis, the largest specimens could reach 12 meters in length and weigh up to 8 tons. What does that mean? It was heavier than any dinosaur except Tyrannosaurus rex. This size securely placed Deinosuchus on the throne of the largest crocodile in history. The only ones that could challenge it were Sarcosuchus and Purosaurus. But don't let Sarcosuchus' name fool you. It wasn't a true crocodile at all. It belonged to the Phyllitosaurids, and its estimated weight was only about 5 tons, making it completely incomparable to Deinosuchus. As for Purosaurus, subsequent research has also revised its body size data, with its maximum weight estimated at around 8,400 kilograms, making it slightly smaller than Deinosuchus ryagrandensis. Today, the vast majority of paleontologists recognize that the maximum length of Deinosuchus was 12 meters. This data is already shocking enough. Consider that the largest living crocodile, the saltwater crocodile, has an adult size only about 1/4 that of the largest Deinosuchus. But what comes as a surprise is that Deinosuchus is more closely related to the alligators we know well, both belonging to the superfamily Alligatoroidea. In terms of appearance, Deinosuchus was practically a scaled-up alligator. Its body profile and snout looked almost identical. Yet, don't think it just simply increased in size. Deinosuchus had fundamental differences from other crocodilians. The shape of its skull was unique among all living and extinct crocodilians, and its skull dimensions were also extremely rare among prehistoric predators. The largest skull measured up to 1.7 meters, on par with the skull length of an adult Spinosaurus. With such a massive and thick skull, many people would instinctively think its bite force was otherworldly. However, the truth is full of twists. As early as 2002, a study indicated that Deinosuchus' bite force was only 18,000 newtons. While this force could crush bones, compared to its giant body size, it could hardly be considered powerful. Keep in mind that the much smaller saltwater crocodile can reach a bite force of 16,500 newtons, which is barely any different from Deinosuchus. But just a few years later, another authoritative study directly overturned this conclusion, proving that Deinosuchus' bite force exceeded 100,000 newtons, nearly twice that of Tyrannosaurus rex. The massive leap in this data completely shattered previous perceptions. The reason it possessed such a powerful bite force was inseparable from its uniquely blessed body structure. Deinosuchus had a total of 22 teeth, each one incredibly solid, capable of withstanding massive impacts without breaking. The teeth at the back of its jaws were short, round, and blunt. Through millions of years of evolution, they developed the specific ability to crush hard bone. Each of its teeth was as large as a banana. Small fish and shrimp simply didn't catch its interest. Its hunting targets were the giant dinosaurs on land at the time, especially hadrosauric dinosaurs, which served as its primary prey. The proof lies within the fossils. On the tail vertebrae of some hadrosaurs, unearthed in Texas, USA, clear bite marks perfectly match the tooth impressions of Deinosuchus. These hadrosaurs were highly likely Griposaurus or Anatotodon, both of which were massive herbivorous dinosaurs. By virtue of its overwhelming size advantage, Deinosuchus had an extremely wide dietary range. Centrosaurus and Ankylosaurus within its habitat could all fall victim as its food. Even large theropod dinosaurs could not escape its ambush. Paleontologists have also discovered what appear to be bite marks left by Deinosuchus on the fossils of Appalachiosaurus. Some scientists have even proposed that the presence of Deinosuchus directly influenced the body size evolution of theropod dinosaurs within its habitat. In the eastern regions where it was active, no theropod dinosaur could stand against it. Deinosuchus was the undisputed apex predator of this region, firmly controlling the top of the food chain. So how did Deinosuchus hunt dinosaurs? It was actually the same as modern crocodiles. It usually lurked quietly in estuaries and shallows, hiding itself underwater with only its eyes exposed. When a dinosaur lowered its head to drink and let its guard down, it would launch a sudden explosive strike. Once it clamped onto the prey, it would execute the signature move of modern crocodiles, the death roll. Relying on its crushing bite force and immense weight, it could tear its prey to pieces in an instant. Yet it had its shortcomings too. By analyzing the growth rings on its osteoderms, paleontologists determined that it took Deinosuchus a full 35 years to reach its adult size. This growth cycle is considered extremely long among prehistoric predators. But do not underestimate a juvenile Deinosuchus. Even before reaching adult size, their stature far exceeded that of modern crocodiles, and may still retain a powerful bite force. Even small dinosaurs dared not easily provoke a juvenile Deinosuchus. Deinosuchus was able to dominate the Cretaceous continent, partly due to another hardcore asset. That is the natural armor on its body. The backs of all Deinosuchus are covered with massive, heavy osteoderms. Interlocking layer upon layer, they can withstand attacks from the vast majority of terrestrial and aquatic organisms. Even the sharp claws of large theropod dinosaurs would find it very difficult to break through this defense. Furthermore, these osteoderms could also anchor connective tissues, significantly enhancing the body's weight-bearing capacity. Relying on its formidable strength, Deinosuchus had an extremely wide distribution. In the United States and northern Mexico, its fossils have been unearthed one after another. From the fossil distribution, it is clear that Deinosuchus had a particular preference for estuarine areas. That is, the semi-enclosed coastal brackish water regions, where rivers flow into and connect with the open sea. Food was abundant here. It could both ambush dinosaurs coming to drink water and prey on fish and sea turtles in the water. It could be called a perfect hunting ground. In addition to estuaries, freshwater lakes, and rivers, even within marine strata, Deinosuchus fossils have been discovered. This has sparked a debate in the academic community. Some scholars believe that Deinosuchus possessed the capability for deep-sea activity and could dive into the deep ocean to forage. Yet others feel that these fossils were transported here by water currents after the Deinosuchus died. If Deinosuchus truly could enter the deep sea, then it is highly likely it encountered the marine behemoth of that time, the mosasaur. You should know, the body size of some mosasaurs was on par with Deinosuchus. The meeting of these two prehistoric giants would bound to set off a fierce battle. Regrettably, to this day, no fossil evidence of interaction between the two has been found. This speculation has also become an unsolved mystery. But after the peak comes the decline. This saying applies equally to prehistoric beasts. Even the Deinosuchus, which ruled over its domain, could not escape the fate of extinction. Approximately 73 million years ago, Deinosuchus suddenly vanished completely from the fossil record, just as if it had never appeared on Earth. Until now, academia still hasn't found the exact reason for its extinction. This has also become a major enigma in the field of paleontology. Many people speculate that it was the excessively massive body size of Deinosuchus that led to its demise. But this explanation was quickly overturned because other large organisms of the same period continued to survive and multiply on Earth without heading toward extinction due to size issues. Perhaps it was a sudden climate shift that caused the estuarine habitats it relied on for survival to completely disappear. Perhaps it was a sharp decline in food that stripped this giant predator of its energy source. Or perhaps it encountered an unknown ecological crisis that left it powerless to resist. None of these various speculations have been supported by conclusive fossil evidence. This prehistoric giant crocodile, armored with scales and possessing a sky-defying bite force, capable of hunting dinosaurs, was ultimately submerged in the long river of time after all. It was once the uncrowned king of the Cretaceous period, running rampant without restraint across land and waters. Yet it walked toward extinction in absolute silence, failing to leave behind even a single trace of resistance.